All right. Hello, everyone. Marty Chinesky here, and I'm your host of Local Sports Wrap-Up, along with my good buddy Ken. And today, we have our number one, we have our source. We have one of our sources, the Michigan High School Athletic Association's our other one, Frack Wladyslawski. And he runs the show at the News Herald, I'm going to say, sports department.
Yep.
Do you run it? Are you the man?
That's safe to say.
Okay, that's good. Well, we couldn't be happier to have you, and we want to pick your brain about just a day in the life of Frank. And man, you just seem to be everywhere all at once. But we are going to start today. We're going to start with some volleyball footage, and Caroline was over at the Wyandotte was playing last weekend, and she stopped in. So.
Callie Blackwell. Number 8, Brianna Vieira. Number 10, Ella Keithley. Number 11, Haley Parrish. Number 16, Madeline Link. And number 17, Peyton Paulina Sr. Madison Russell. Number 2, Olivia Lorenz. Number 7, Bianca Buckmore. Number 8, Megan Howell. Number 9, Sydney Nozel. Number 10, Hannah Halfletcher. Number 11, Senior Brooklyn Geise. Number 12, Avery Patrick. Number 14, Briar Cook. And number 15, Nyla Kelly. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2022 Wyandotte Varsity Bears.
The Bears are like middle of the pack right now, and Woodhaven, I'm assuming. Woodhaven, Frank?
Yeah, Woodhaven's
You haven't
our top
never
team
heard
right
us
now.
say that on this show, have you? The good old days, Woodhaven, Marcia. Okay, let's start out with last week's football scores. Woodhaven went into Carlson and got thumped. Not really, but did get thumped. 38-17? 18. 38-18.
And that was the battle for first place, right?
Correct.
And what happened is Carlson wins, so Woodhaven's not in it, but Trenton, who lost to Carlson, right?
Right.
Trenton lost to Carlson.
And Carlson lost to Southgate.
Yeah.
So
there
they
it
were
is.
all 7-1 on the season. Trenton took care of Wyandotte. Gabriel Richard took care of Miller Lake. So, was that game. Apparently, Carlson got out to a 17-0 start, from what I understand.
Right.
And then it was kind of trade touchdowns till the end of the game. What else do we know? The quarterback threw for 4 touchdowns. They dominated. Even the Woodhaven coach said they dominated the line of scrimmage.
Right. It was a battle of the interior lines. They were saying that going into the game, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously they dominated 38-18. They got a 20-point, got up on them and beat them by 20. What talent do you see? What's the most, do you think Gibraltar's the toughest team downriver?
I think so at this point. I would have said Woodhaven earlier on, but I think they're a little banged up right now. That's why I would take Carlson as a team. You're talking about the offensive line. Mari Carter, the running back there, he was a transfer this year. He came in from Southlake, I believe, out in Macomb County, and he's been a monster these last couple weeks.
Okay.
He ran for, I think, 301 yards in week 8, and I believe last week he had 250 some yards. Yeah,
That's the kid that finished with
1,300
yards for the season?
I believe.
Yeah, that's for
Yeah.
Carlson.
Carter.
Yeah.
That's
And
for
then they have
Carlson.
another good little back, a freshman, too. So they've got a solid 1-2 punch out of the backfield there.
Okay.
So they, let's see. Then Trenton comes in. Now you've got Trenton at 8-1 or 7-1, and Carlson at 7-1. Woodhaven just misses. So this week, before we get a little too far into the next week's matchups, Frank, what's a day like for Frank? Yeah, I know you have young kids still.
I don't.
No?
I don't have any kids.
Okay. So you get up, you got to get moving. What's a day like being Frank?
Typically, I'll get up, check my email, see what's going on, on the work end. I'll talk to my freelancers, communicate with them, see what's going on for that particular day. Usually I go out. The games are usually at night. high
Right,
school
and I
games.
was going to ask, how do you get information from, like, you have people out there that you absorb all the different games? You can only be at one game, and maybe two if you leave at halftime, you
Right.
know?
We get what we can. I'll get out to a game myself, and then I have a freelance staff of about four or five people. I think you've met Alex.
Yes.
Shout out to Alex. He does a great job for me.
He's had a lot of bowling meets, that's why I know him.
And a few other people that kind of come and go from the staff. I have a couple of photographers, so I'll I'll assign them to games. Usually I'll make up a schedule Sunday night, and then they'll go out to games for me. They'll send me their stuff at the end of the night. I'll go through, edit, and then post their stuff.
Now, do you send them on games? Because 4, and knowing you still have at least 6 or 7 downriver schools, 4 is not a whole bunch, and there's different sports going on.
Mm-hmm.
How do you choose which event to send them to?
There's a little bit of a formula there.
Okay.
Usually I try and look at the best games, but I also try and look at teams that we haven't seen in a while.
Okay.
I do my best not to overload, too much with one school. It does happen. We do get complaints, but I do my best to make sure that we're balanced, as much as possible.
I wouldn't, I mean, if the teams are always winning, that's the team you follow. If the Wyandotte people are complaining, all we get is Woodhaven, well, they beat Woodhaven once in a while. And our track team did win the league.
Yeah.
Our track team represented, and that was cool, the girls anyway. Okay, so then, what about access through the ADs? You get any access through the ADs? Do they email you something good that might have happened?
Some do.
Some do.
And then some I have to do a little more digging.
So there's not a magical website we could go to, like highschoolhighlights.com, There's none of that. You got to have a secret source that me and Ken could tap into, maybe?
Unfortunately not.
So we'll use you.
Unfortunately not. I've talked about this with some of my other, prep colleagues out there, and they're on the same boat too. We really have to scramble to find that information. The big thing is that at that high school level, there's no PR team, there's no communications team, as opposed to say, like a big college, or heck, even a small college, a pro team, where they have that. They have those people that are getting that information out, whereas basically the head coach, doubles in that role, or the AD doubles, in that role. There's a few schools that do have someone like that, but I don't think anyone downriver right now.
That would be an interesting class to. I mean, they have the class at the school, at our school, Wyandotte.
Yeah, because they do TV in the morning. They have that capability to do something like that. Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, though, what we found during baseball season, it was Game Changer, which is nothing but like how to keep score modern day, right?
That's a great tool.
But the stats keep if the person keeps them or whatever. So we were able to go into Game Changer and find out what the different baseball teams were doing and who had how many hits and things of that nature.
And the MHSAA site itself always has results.
They've done a lot better the last couple of years.
Yeah, I will agree with that. They always have scores, but they're really not a lot of info.
Right.
Only unless you're a South Lion or something like that.
Yeah.
And you were talking about Woodhaven not staying healthy. When South Lion played that team from up in Tecumseh, he had 8 guys in shoulder harnesses playing that game.
That's rough.
Yeah, it's a good buddy of mine. All right, so you're spread a little thin, which that's I can relate. Ken can relate. He's chasing young ones around still. Mine are growing up. But let's get into the first what we got going here. Game number 1, as far as I'm concerned, is Woodhaven playing Belleville in Division I. And that's a tough draw for Woodhaven, man, because Belleville is just full of college talent. And Ken kind of knows.
Yeah, we know the part. I'm from Ipsy, so we know the part that Belleville's coach came from Detroit, and then he kind of built this factory here at Belleville. So I think last year they had 9 D1 recruits. I'm not sure how many they have this year, but that's going to be a tough buzzsaw for Woodhaven to go into. I don't think they helped themselves with that loss because it went back to the point system, right? and there's 32 teams from every division
Right.
that are making the playoffs.
Right.
And that'll start this Friday, right?
Right.
And so they get Belleville out the gate. It almost would make me think, are they a 1 and 16 seed? Because I would think Belleville's the one.
They have to be the
You know
one.
what I mean? I would think they're 9-0 with the
I
way
was
they-
looking at points. No, go ahead, Frank.
I was saying, the way they do is they seed the district. So you have 4 teams in a district, and then Belleville is your top seed in that district, and Woodhaven is your low seed,
4th seed.
in that district. There's a push out there right now to get them to at least start seeding the region, where you're at least seeding 8 teams as opposed to 4, where you wouldn't have, I hate to get ahead here, but we wouldn't have the Rouge King matchup. We wouldn't have that right now if they were to do that.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're going to give Belleville the slight edge. What do you think? Going to give them a slight. We're not going to pick.
right.
Frank's
And
not going to pick. He's
right,
got a
unless
job to do.
Woodhaven got healthy, like they would have to get really, really healthy to compete. Because if their thing is listening to the coach after the game, he said that their thing is physicality as well, right?
Yes.
They want to be physical. They want to run the ball and they want to stop the run, and they couldn't do that against Carlson. So how could they? How's that going to translate against Belleville? We're left to wonder.
Right.
Woodhaven does have a great running back, senior Devin Henry. I think he had 2 weeks ago. I think he had 294 yards and six touchdowns.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a great
Is that
athlete.
against us?
All-state. No, I can't remember who that game was, but he's an all-state track sprinter too.
Okay.
So I think he's going to go far. I think he's.
So
D1.
next up in Division 3, Gibraltar Carlson's taking on New Boston Huron. Carlson's 8-1, Huron 6-3. So we obviously have to give Carlson the edge. The only team they lost to this year was Southgate, and that was at Southgate's homecoming, and
Right.
the kids were a bit intimidated. But Carlson's a strong unit. And I don't know a lot about the Huron school. Do you know anything about them?
Yeah, I've actually seen New Boston Huron a couple times this year. They have a great quarterback, Gavin Wladyslawski. He's committed to Michigan State for baseball. He's been committed for a while now. Just incredible athlete. Runs the ball really well, throws the ball really well. They've got Micah Smith, great running back. They've got Rory Callahan, tight end. He's committed to D1. I can't remember what school.
It's all right.
Big kid. Can get out and catch the ball. They sometimes will line him up, as a wide out. In fact, they did this last game I was at. They lined him up as a wide out and went right up over a kid for a 36-yard touchdown. And he's a beast on defense. I think it's on his defense is what I think is. What
But
the
he's
colleges
going
were
for
looking at.
baseball, huh?
Oh no, that's the quarterback, Gavin
okay.
Wladyslawski. Rory Callahan is a defensive end, tight end kid, real big kid. He's,
Okay. Well, then it might be a toss-up.
it could be Huron could give them a game. I would not be surprised to see.
Okay. And the other one in Division 3, Trenton is taking on Southgate Anderson. And Southgate being 5-4 and Trenton being 8-1. Again, I just want to say that bringing in that coach from Indiana, Illinois, wherever it was a stroke of genius, even though every parent in the city of Trenton was complaining. And rightfully so. I mean, if you put your time in, if you're my assistant for 12 years and then they pick someone else, you'd be upset.
Definitely.
And all them guys from there went to
They went to Gabriel
Richard. Yeah. And this guy brought in his own people. And come on, Carlson was 8-1. Now, Trenton was 8-1. Southgate is going to give them a battle.
Right.
They're going to show up to play. They did take down Carlson on homecoming, and Trenton took care of Trenton lost to Carlson, so it's going to be interesting. They'll give them a battle.
Right. If nothing else, those kids from Southgate are going to have confidence, right?
Oh,
that
definitely.
they know they can compete because they beat the number 1 team or the team that tied with them. But who's the strongest player do you think on Trenton?
Ty Norgren, the quarterback. Kid is a beast. Kid is tough as nails. I've said that a couple times in articles. He's not afraid to take a hit. They run the ball a lot. They always have over there. The quarterback runs the ball a lot, but he's also got a really good arm. Real accurate passer. I would say he's the best kid in the Downriver League. I'm sure I would get an argument on that. But I would say he's the best overall player in the Down River League. Kid is so tough. I mean, he's
Based on his toughness, the other intangibles, but he's fast as well?
yes.
Okay.
Gets off the ball really quick. Hands off real well. They've got good system there of running backs, and I mean it's they work real well. They communicate real well. Reggie Glahn, who you're talking about, coming in from Indiana. He's done an amazing job there.
So when you're saying the handoff, is it like the fakes like that? Like is it a system where they're tricking you, or?
I've seen both.
Okay.
With Trenton, they run a variety of different, come at you with a variety of different looks.
Okay.
All right,
No, that's
that's gonna
important.
be a game.
Yeah.
Too bad I can't get to any of these. We should go watch one, Ken.
Definitely.
Allen Park, another local team here, 5-4, getting a tough draw going up to Grosse Pointe North, who were 8-1 in their league play this year. Allen Park's strong, but I umpired for years. Some Grosse Pointe North kids are bred to play sports, and probably like some of the schools, they pick their kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you haven't been up that way, but I'm sure they'll battle. But again, if Grosse Pointe's average weight up front is 240 or 50, and Allen Park's isn't, the line of scrimmage is just where the game's won, right? You agree?
Right.
Yeah, I think that the Allen Park's advantage, and we said this a couple weeks ago, right? When Allen Park actually scheduled River Rouge in a non-conference game, and we talked about how that they needed to do that to, test their will and get prepared for the playoffs, and now the playoffs are here. I work on the east side of Detroit, so Grosse Pointe North is weird where it's really close to east side of Detroit, but then it also has the parts of Grosse Pointe that they can get. So I wouldn't be surprised if their running backs or their skill position were faster kids.
Okay. Gotcha. 10, this is a good battle here. River Rouge 5-3 taking on Detroit King 5-3. Now, King just lost to lost to Cass Tech for the
City championships.
city championship.
But they beat Cass Tech once this year as well.
Yeah, they split.
During the regular season.
Right.
I don't know what Frank has, but I looked and I seen that out of Martin Luther King lost 3 games. You said they're 5-3, right? So they lost to a team out of Indianapolis, right? First week of the season. Then they lost to Archbishop Moeller, which was out of Ohio, right?
Okay.
And then they lost to Cass Tech. So they've had a tough schedule. Rouge, that's who they play. They lost to Southfield last week, right? And then they lost to we seen them beat Allen Park.
They
the
went
week
to
before.
Ohio and lost to
They
somebody.
lost.
They took a road trip down there.
But I think what you kind of enlightened us to here is that you said, based on the region, when it only been set at, the district been set at 4 teams
Right.
instead of 8,
Right.
it makes these two gladiators play each
Yeah.
other in the first round.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'm trying to understand that a little more.
Yeah. Well, with the point system, you get so many points for the team. For a win, you get more points. Based on where that team is at. How big of a team that is. That's why you have some teams getting in with 4 wins. Like Monroe St. Mary's is getting in with 4 wins this year, because they play up in Division II, Division III teams all year. But
And if they beat a team that beats up on everyone else, they're getting more points for that.
right.
Okay.
Right.
Next in line, now this should be Riverview at 9-0 is hosting Adrian at 5-4. I want to talk a little bit about Riverview, because I'm sure you've seen a game or two out there.
Riverview has been running that power T offense for years. You're talking about the deception and such. I mean, that's their whole offense. You're constantly running that fullback trap. You've got, you never know who's got the ball. It could be any one of 4 guys coming out of the backfield. It's tough to watch, because you just, unless you're up above, you don't even know who has the ball. And then which makes it an absolute nightmare for a defense. The thing is that they've been running that system now too for, I don't know, maybe 5 years or so.
Okay.
And obviously you've had so many kids interchanged in and out of that system. But they've got some great athletes over there. You've got
And
Jake.
if they're smart, I mean, they're younger systems. The JV and the 9th grade, 8th grade, the middle school is running the same system if they're smart.
I believe they are. I don't know for sure, but I believe Coach Mack
I'm
has
not
it.
sure they could learn it if they weren't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a lot of practice, a lot of repetition. I know goes into that.
It should be. We're going to say they're going to roll. Riverview's going to roll over Adrian. That's my. There, I'm going out on a limb. Get on your phone, get them on that app, and see if
you're right.
see if they can take care of them. Not that I would condone that activity ever. Flat Rock playing Dundee. Both teams are 6-3. Division 5. We're moving up. I know nothing about either of these teams. Flat Rock. Any input on that one?
Yeah, Flat Rock for a long time had been down. The last 3 or 4 years, they had only won maybe 2-3 games. So they really broke out this year. Of the 3 games they lost, I think 2 of them were by less than a touchdown. So I mean, that 6-3 could easily be 8-1. I mean, they've got a great sophomore quarterback, Graham Youngie. He's already set a bunch of school records. I believe he has like 2,000 yards passing.
Nice.
Through the regular season. Last week they won, was it 57-56? And I believe there's been a couple other games where they put up those kind of numbers. And 2 weeks in a row now they've actually won by 1 point. So that tells me that they've, Buck Graham down there, he's the head coach. He's really they know how to win. These guys are learning how to win. It's not just how to put up points.
It's a comfort thing. It's a comfort thing. Once you do it a couple times in a couple years, then you're used to winning. And if you're down a little bit, you don't sweat. You don't worry about it, especially if it's early in the game. So Flat Rock, Dundee, that should be a good battle down there. Place will be rocking because it's in Flat Rock.
That's going to be their first ever home game, playoff home game in program history.
Oh, wow. No kidding.
Congratulations, Flat Rock.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Grosse Hill has to travel to Summit Academy. That's not a very long ride. And Grosse Hill 5-4, Summit 7-2. Summit kind of a come play for us pick'em school, as I like to say. Grosse Hill, they get island kids mostly. What do you think about that one?
That's an interesting matchup because Summit doesn't necessarily have the strength of schedule that Grosse Hill has. I mean, Grosse Hill goes through that gauntlet in the Huron League. You got to play Milan, you got to play Huron, Riverview. So whereas Summit, they do play some strong teams, but you've also got Bradford Academy in there, that was struggling this year, and a couple others. So that one, I mean, both teams have really struggled to put up points this year. At least down the stretch here anyway. Grosse Hill was shut out a couple times down the stretch. I think there were 4 or 5 games where Summit had like maybe single-digit points or maybe 14 points at most. So it could be a battle of defenses. It could be a 14-10 kind of game like it was a couple years ago when they met up. I mean, if I had to pick, I would say Summit, but it could go either way.
And what he said is 2 years ago they actually played, right? 2020, and Grosse Hill won that game.
Right.
14-10, I believe that's what you said. Yeah, I remember that.
And another shout out for Grosse Hill. They just won their 14th consecutive district title in soccer. The soccer team is always in the state final games. Last 8 years, they've won 5 of them or something like that. They've been in it since like 2015 in the state final games, so they have to keep going, but kudos to them. In Division 6, this is an interesting matchup too. You got Ecorse hosting Detroit Voyager. Now Ecorse has got some talent on that team. Ken knows a little bit about that.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Ecorse lost their first game this past week, right? They were 8-1.
Right.
So they just lost, so they're coming fresh off a loss to go to the playoffs. So hopefully we get some redemption this week.
I don't think they're like Frank had said, the other strength of schedule. I don't know if Ecorse was so tough. In fact, they had to cancel 1 week because they couldn't find anyone to play. I remember talking about that.
Yeah.
But they got some good kids on there. Is that the team, Ecorse, that has the Michigan State wide receiver commit, or was that Rouge?
That's River Rouge. Nick Marsh.
Both those cities were my stopping grounds when I was young. Oh, okay. I used to hang out down there in that area of town. And the last one I got on here, Division 8, Gabriel Richard is hosting Melvindale ABT. Gabriel Richard has Allen Park's old AD, I believe, and Melvindale ABT. So I don't know anything about either one of these schools either.
Well, they got all the Trenton's coaches, right?
Actually, there's a whole new staff in there now. Gabriel Richard got a new coach this year.
Okay.
He's done a great job.
Definitely.
He brought in a lot of, he brought in some of his people. He came from Orchard Lake St. Mary's,
Okay.
and they've done a
That's
great.
history. Yeah.
They've done a great
Oh,
job.
yeah, he's going to be a solid coach there, that's for sure.
It was rocky in the beginning for them, but I believe they won their last 4 or 5 now. Then they only lost by a point to Bishop Foley.
Okay.
And Foley's a powerhouse.
Right
Yeah.
now, Foley's really good
Yeah,
right now.
Foley's 9-0. Yeah, they won the Prep Bowl this past weekend.
Okay.
So yeah.
The thing that I saw in there, and I know we only got a couple minutes, was Birmingham Brother Rice, or it starts with a W now, wherever their schools had located. They were 3-5 and made the playoffs.
Yeah.
They were 3-5
Wow.
and made the playoffs.
Yeah.
So
For schools in that division?
That strength of schedule again, where you're playing those teams where you get those points, and then I don't remember how the whole points thing works. I don't even for a loss you get so many points.
I'm not sure anyone understands the true formula there, Frank.
Yeah, it's not your fault, right?
Yeah, right. 'cause
It's on purpose. Yeah.
All right, well, hey, Frank, we can't be happier that you were here to help explain the games going on this weekend. We knew you'd have more input than the two of us could ever put out.
I appreciate being on.
Yeah, no, it was great.
It won't be the last time, Frank.
No, we'll get you on for something else, but we have to wrap up. Our time is running out, so I'm just going to say watch us on YouTube, localsportswrapup@gmail.com, and you can watch this episode by tomorrow. Today's Monday the 24th. We will see everyone next week. Marty, Ken, and Frank, thanks for watching, everyone.